The training hall was built to hurt people. The floor was cold metal, scratched by years of boots and blood. Tall black walls rose on every side, covered with marks from failed drills and broken bodies. Bright white lights burned overhead, leaving no shadow deep enough to hide in. Every sound echoed. Boots striking metal, armor plates shifting, heavy breathing. This was not a place for mercy. This was a place where pain was called training. Squad K-17 stood in formation near the center of the hall. They were known as an efficient squad. Not friendly, not kind, just effective. Their leader was Commander Varric. Varric stood at the front with his hands behind his back. He was tall and wide, his dark armor clean and perfect. His face showed no emotion. His eyes were calm, cold, and watchful. He believed in one rule above all others: weakness must be removed. Behind him stood the rest of the squad. Most were strong. Most stood straight with confidence in their posture. All except two. Their names were Len and Isha. Len was smaller than the others. His armor was old and repaired many times. One shoulder plate was slightly bent. His hands shook as he held his weapon, and he tried hard to hide it. Isha stood beside him. She was quick but light, not built for heavy combat. Her eyes stayed low. She tried to make herself small. Everyone knew they were the weak ones. The sparring alarm sounded. A sharp tone cut through the hall. Two senior trainees from another squad stepped forward. They were larger, older, and smiling. They enjoyed these drills, especially when they were unfair. "Engage," the instructor ordered. The fight began instantly. The senior trainees ignored Commander Varric. They ignored the strong fighters. They went straight for Len and Isha. A heavy strike hit Len's chest. He flew backward and crashed onto the metal floor. His weapon slid away with a loud scrape. Before Isha could react, another blow hit her side. She cried out and dropped to one knee. Laughter echoed through the hall. "Get up," one bully said. Len tried. His legs shook. He fell again. A boot pressed into his back. Isha reached toward him, but a sharp kick sent her crashing into the wall. Her breath left her body in a painful gasp. Some trainees looked away. Others watched closely. No one moved. Len lifted his head and looked at Commander Varric. Their eyes met. Varric saw everything: the fear, the pain, the imbalance. Varric did nothing. Another strike landed. Len screamed. His vision blurred. "Please," Isha whispered weakly. "Stop." The bullies laughed louder. "The leader agrees. You don't belong here." Blood spread across the metal floor. Varric finally spoke. "Stand," he said coldly. Len tried again. His arms failed him. He collapsed. Varric turned away. "Continue," he ordered. Something broke in that moment. Not loudly, but deeply. Before the next blow could land, the massive doors of the training hall slid open with a loud hiss. Every sound stopped. Every head turned. A human girl walked in. She was shorter than most trainees. Her uniform was simple gray with no rank marks. Her dark hair was tied back tightly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Her name was Mira Hale. An instructor followed her and spoke loudly. "This is Cadet Mira Hale, human, assigned through the interspecies exchange program." Whispers spread through the hall. "A human? They're fragile, too emotional. Why is she here?" Mira ignored the voices. Her eyes locked onto Len and Isha. She saw the blood. She saw the broken armor. She saw the bullies standing over them. She saw Commander Varric looking away. Her jaw tightened. She stepped forward. "Why is no one stopping this?" she asked. The question hit the room like a shockwave. No one had ever asked that before. Commander Varric turned slowly toward her. His expression was cold. "They are weak. Weakness must be corrected." Mira stared at him, disbelief clear on her face. "You're the squad leader. That makes it your responsibility." Varric's eyes narrowed. A leader does not protect weakness. Nature decides. Behind Mira, the instructor raised his voice. "Cadet Hale, step back. This does not concern you." Mira did not move. She looked at Len, struggling to breathe. She looked at Isha, shaking against the wall. Then she looked back at Varric. "This is wrong," she said quietly. The bullies laughed. "The human speaks," one said. He raised his weapon again. Mira moved. She ducked, grabbed his arm, twisted hard, and used his weight against him. The larger alien lost balance. Mira pushed. He hit the floor with a heavy crash. Silence fell. No one moved. No one spoke. A human had just taken down a senior trainee. Varric stared at her, shock flashing across his face for the first time. Mira stood over Len and Isha, breathing hard. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from anger. "I won't stay silent," she said, "not while people are being hurt." The instructor finally shouted, "Stop the drill!" Alarms sounded. Medical drones rushed in. Mira knelt beside Len and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone," she said softly. Len looked up at her, eyes wide with disbelief. Isha did the same. For the first time since joining the academy, someone had stood between them and pain. Around them, the rules of the academy cracked, because the leader let the weak suffer, and a human girl refused to accept that.
The training hall never truly returned to normal. Even after the alarm stopped and the medical drones lifted Len and Isha onto floating stretchers, the silence stayed heavy. It felt thick, like the air itself was waiting. Mira remained kneeling beside them until the drones gently pulled them away. Only then did she stand. Her heart was still beating fast. Her hands were tight at her sides. She did not regret what she had done. Around her, trainees whispered. A human touched a senior. She took him down. She spoke against a leader. Commander Varric had not moved. He stood exactly where he was, staring at Mira as if she were a broken rule that should not exist. His face was calm, but something dark burned behind his eyes. The instructor walked toward Mira with slow, heavy steps. "Cadet Mira Hale," he said sharply, "you interfered in sanctioned training. You attacked a senior trainee. Explain yourself." Mira met his eyes. Her voice was calm, but firm. They were being hurt. No one stopped it. The instructor frowned. "Pain builds strength." Mira shook her head. "Pain without limits builds fear." A ripple passed through the hall. Some trainees shifted where they stood. Others lowered their eyes. Fear was not a word spoken often here. Commander Varric finally stepped forward. "She is under my command now," he said coldly. "Her actions reflect my squad. I accept responsibility." The instructor studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Very well," he said. "Squad K-17 will answer for this during evaluation." With that, the instructors turned away. The drill was officially over, but nothing felt finished. As trainees slowly returned to their positions, eyes followed Mira wherever she moved. She was no longer invisible. That night, Squad K-17 gathered in their barracks. The room was narrow, metal walls closed in tightly. Sleeping pods were stacked high, glowing with cold blue light. No one spoke at first. The silence pressed down on them. Finally, one trainee broke it. "You embarrassed us," he said, staring at Mira. "You made us look weak." Mira replied, "Weak people get hurt when no one stands with them." Low sounds of agreement and anger moved through the room. Commander Varric raised his hand. "Enough." The squad went silent instantly. Varric looked directly at Mira. "You are human. You do not understand this academy." Mira crossed her arms. "Then explain it to me." That surprised him. "This academy prepares us for war. In war, the weak slow the strong. Leaders do not waste strength saving them." Mira answered quietly. "On Earth, leaders are judged by who comes back alive." The room went still. One trainee laughed nervously. "Humans think war is about feelings." Mira shook her head. "Humans know war is about people." Varric said nothing. He turned away and dismissed the squad. But his silence was louder than shouting. The next days were harder. Training started earlier, drills lasted longer, equipment loads were heavier. Commander Varric pushed the squad harder than ever. It was clear he was testing something, or someone. Mira kept up. She was not the fastest runner, she was not the strongest fighter, but she adapted. When her legs burned, she controlled her breathing. When her grip failed, she adjusted her stance. She did not complain, she did not quit. Others noticed. During a climbing drill, one trainee slipped near the top of the wall. Without thinking, Mira grabbed his arm and pulled him back to safety. He stared at her. "Why help?" "Because falling wastes time," she replied. He said nothing, but he did not pull away. During a tactical simulation, Mira quietly suggested a different route through the battlefield. Varric ignored her. His plan failed. Another squad used Mira's idea. They succeeded. Varric paused. Only for a moment, but Mira saw it. Len and Isha returned to training 3 days later. They moved carefully. No one hit them anymore. But no one spoke to them either. They were avoided. That evening, Mira found them sitting near the outer wall of the academy, staring up at the stars. "They don't hurt us now," Len said quietly. "They just pretend we don't exist." Mira frowned. "That's not better." Isha hugged her knees. "It feels safer." Mira looked up at the dark sky. "Safe isn't always right." Len glanced at her. "Why did you help us?" Mira thought for a moment. "Because I know what it feels like to be ignored." Isha studied her. "You're strong." Mira smiled faintly. "No, I just don't look away." Behind closed doors, the academy was changing. Instructors argued. "This human is dangerous. She disrupts discipline. She encourages defiance." Others pushed back. Casualties dropped. Squad cohesion improved. The data is clear. Lines were forming. Beliefs were being tested. Commander Varric felt it too. His authority remained, but something was missing. Cadets followed his orders. They did not trust him. He noticed it in small things. Delayed responses, avoided eye contact, hesitation. One night, he watched the training footage again. The moment Len looked at him, the moment he turned away. He paused the frame. He did not recognize himself. The system had protected him, but it had not saved him. A message appeared the next morning. Squad combat evaluation. All members required. Mira read the rules. Her eyes stopped on one line. All squad members must remain active. Loss of any member equals failure. She looked up slowly. Commander Varric was already reading it. His expression changed. Len and Isha stood nearby.
silent, vulnerable. Mira understood immediately. This was not just an evaluation, it was a test of leadership, of belief, of silence. And the system was ready to prove her wrong.
The day of the squad combat evaluation arrived under a dark sky. Heavy clouds moved slowly above the academy, blocking most of the light. Cold winds swept across the open training grounds, carrying the sound of distant machines and warning alarms. This was not a normal drill. Everyone felt it. Squad K-17 stood at the edge of the combat zone. Broken metal walls and ruined towers filled the field ahead. Smoke machines released thick fog to hide movement. Enemy drones waited somewhere inside. This place was designed to punish mistakes. Commander Varick stood at the front of the squad. His armor was perfect, his posture was straight, but his thoughts were heavy. One rule repeated in his mind again and again: loss of any member equals failure. He glanced to the side. Len stood stiffly, holding a scanner pack close to his chest. His armor was still damaged in places. His eyes moved quickly, nervous but alert. Isha stood beside him. She rolled her shoulders slowly, trying to hide her fear. Her hands shook, but she stayed in position. Mira noticed both of them. She stepped closer and spoke quietly. "Stay near me." Len nodded. Isha swallowed and nodded too. The starting signal sounded. A deep horn echoed across the field. Squad K-17 moved forward. At first, everything went smoothly. Commander Varick ordered a fast push toward the center objective. The strongest fighters moved ahead. Mira stayed near the back with Len and Isha, watching angles and listening for danger. Then the field came alive. Enemy drones activated without warning. Energy fire cut through the fog. Explosions shook the ground. "Cover!" Varick shouted. The squad scattered behind broken walls and metal barriers. Mira crouched low, pulling Len behind cover just as a blast hit where he had been standing. "Scanner," she said. Len activated it, his hands shaking. "Movement, East Ridge, multiple units." "Good," said Mira. "Keep talking." Commander Varick heard the report. He did not change direction. "Advance," he ordered. "Ignore the noise." The squad pushed forward. Then it happened. A hidden charge exploded beneath Len's feet. The blast threw him backward. He hit the ground hard. The scanner flew from his hands. His leg twisted sharply. Len screamed. Isha turned instantly. "Len!" Enemy movement appeared on the ridge above them. Older trainees, stronger ones. They saw Len immediately. "There!" one of them shouted. "The weak one!" Energy fire rained down. Len tried to stand. His leg failed him. He collapsed again, gasping. Mira moved toward him. Commander Varick's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold position." Mira froze. "Continue the push," Varick ordered. "Ignore him." Mira turned and stared at him. "What?" she shouted. "He is compromised," Varick said coldly. "We finished the mission." Len looked up, fear filling his eyes. "Leader!" he shouted. "Please!" Isha tried to reach him, but a blast forced her back into cover. Debris cut her arm. She cried out in pain. Mira's chest tightened. She looked at Len on the ground. She looked at the enemies closing in. She looked at Commander Varick. Varick hesitated. Only for a second, but a second was enough. Mira understood. He was not going to act. This was the moment. If she stayed silent, Len would be destroyed. If she followed orders, she would be safe. Silence was easier. Silence was allowed. Mira clenched her fists. She remembered the blood on the training hall floor. She remembered Varick turning away. She remembered what silence protected. Mira broke formation. "Cover me!" she shouted as she ran. Alarms blared instantly. "Formation breach! Cadet disobeying orders!" Mira didn't stop. Energy fire burned past her. She slid behind a broken wall near Len and fired quick shots toward the attackers. One enemy fell back. Another took cover. She grabbed Len by the armor and dragged him behind cover. "You okay?" she asked. Len shook his head. I can't move fast." "That's fine. We'll move smart." Enemy fire slammed into the wall. Mira leaned out and fired again, forcing them back.
Behind them, Squad K-17 froze. They looked at Commander Varric. This was the choice. If Commander Varric continued forward, Len would fall. If he turned back, the mission would fail. The instructors watched from above. The council observed in silence. This was no longer just an evaluation. This was a test of leadership. Mira shouted again, "You're losing him!" Another blast hit close. Len screamed in pain. That scream broke something inside Commander Varric. "Squad K-17, defensive formation, protect the rear." The squad moved instantly. Weapons turned, shields formed. Enemy fire was pushed back. Mira felt pressure lift as support arrived. Together, the squad forced the attackers to retreat. But time was gone. The mission timer reached 0. A loud tone echoed across the field. Mission failed. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke drifted slowly through the ruins. Mira helped Len sit up. His legs shook, but he was alive. "Thank you," he whispered. Mira nodded. "You did your part." Commander Varric walked toward them slowly. His armor felt heavier than ever. "You disobeyed orders," he said to Mira. "Yes," she replied calmly. "You caused mission failure." Mira met his eyes. The mission failed when leadership chose speed over people. The words hit harder than any weapon. Around them, instructors whispered. The council said nothing. Commander Varric had no answer, because the evaluation did not fail due to weakness. It failed because silence lasted too long, and everyone had seen it.
The judgment hall was never silent. Even when no one spoke, machines hummed behind the walls. Energy flowed under the floor. Lights moved slowly above, watching everything. This room decided futures. Cadets stood along the sides in straight lines. Instructors stood closer to the center. High above them, behind a wide wall of dark glass, the council observed. They never showed their faces. Mira stood alone at the center of the hall. Human, unranked, still breathing hard from the evaluation. Across the chamber stood Commander Varric. His posture was perfect, his armor was clean, his face was calm. Len and Isha stood near the edge of the room, injured, silent, alive. The chief examiner spoke. "Cadet Mira Hale," the voice echoed, "you are charged with disobedience, interference in training, and disruption of command structure." A pause. "Do you deny these actions?" Mira lifted her head. "No," she said. A ripple moved through the chamber. The examiner's tone hardened. "You admit guilt?" "I admit action, not guilt." Whispers spread. The examiner turned slightly. "Explain." Mira did not rush her words. "I saw people being hurt. I saw a leader do nothing. I stepped in." One instructor snapped. "Pain builds strength." Mira turned toward him. "Pain without protection builds fear." That word echoed. Fear. The chamber shifted. The examiner narrowed his eyes. "This academy teaches survival." "Yes," Mira said, "but survival is not standing alone. Survival is not silence." Low sounds moved behind the dark glass. The council was reacting. The examiner gestured, and a large hologram appeared above the floor. Footage played. The training hall, the bullies striking, the cadets falling, Commander Varric watching, not moving. The image froze on the moment Len reached out for help. The examiner pointed. "This is weakness." Mira shook her head slowly. "This is abandonment." The word landed hard. Abandonment. A senior instructor stepped forward. "Human, you do not understand our way. Weakness must be removed." Mira met his eyes. "Then you are not removing weakness, you are creating it." The instructor scoffed. "Emotion clouds judgment." Mira answered calmly. "Fear clouds judgment. Trust clears it." Silence spread through the hall. The examiner turned toward Commander Varric. "Did you observe the attack on Cadet Len?" "Yes," Varric said. "Did you intervene?" "No." "Why?" Varric hesitated. Just a moment. Because the weak must learn, he said. The examiner nodded. And did they learn? Silence. Len took a step forward. I learned, he said quietly. Every head turned. The examiner hesitated. Speak. Len swallowed. I learned my leader would not protect me. I learned silence meant permission. A sharp intake of breath moved through the hall. Len continued, his voice shaking but stronger. The human broke orders to save us. She didn't have to. He looked at Mira. But she did. The council lights flickered. The examiner turned back to Mira. Why risk punishment? Mira answered without pause, because systems that protect bullies are already broken. That sentence cracked something deep. The examiner stepped back. For the first time, the council spoke. Their voice was layered, heavy, not one being, but many. Human, the council said, do you believe yourself above our rules? Mira looked up at the dark glass. No, she said, I believe some rules protect the wrong people. Silence stretched. Then the council spoke again. You interfered in training. Yes. You challenged command. Yes. You changed outcomes. Yes. A pause. Then you exposed a flaw. The chamber shifted. Instructors stiffened. The council continued. This academy has removed weakness for generations, yet fear remains, failure remains. The hologram changed. Numbers appeared. Casualty reports, dropout records, mental collapse rates. The truth filled the room. The council's voice lowered. Your interference reduced injuries, increased coordination, increased survival. Murmurs spread. The examiner whispered, Impossible. Mira spoke softly. Humans don't erase fear. We face it together. The council was silent for a long time. Then, Cadet Mira Hale, they said, you broke the system. Mira did not react. You broke it because it was already cracked. The floor vibrated slightly. Effective immediately, the council declared. Brutality-based training is suspended. Shock rippled through the hall. Instructors will be held accountable for inaction. More shock. Leadership will now be judged by survival of all members. Commander Varric's face changed. For the first time, fear appeared. The council finished. You will not be punished, human. Whispers exploded. You will be observed. Mira exhaled slowly. The council added a final sentence. Your species is dangerous, not because of strength, but because you refuse to stay silent. The lights dimmed. The judgment ended. Mira was escorted out. In the hall beyond, Len and Isha waited. You broke the academy, Len said quietly. Mira shook her head. No, it was already broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. Behind them, alarms echoed softly. Not warnings, updates. The system was changing. But change did not arrive gently. Training continued the next day. Schedules ran. Drills resumed. Orders were given. But the air felt cold. People watched Mira everywhere, some with respect, some with anger, some with fear. Instructors no longer shouted at her. Their silence was sharper. Behind closed doors, arguments exploded. This academy was built on strength, and it will fall apart with softness. The humans' results were real, but discipline is breaking. What is discipline without trust? Lines were drawn. The academy split. Commander Varric sat alone that night. He replayed the recording again. The moment he turned away, he paused the frame. He did not recognize himself. The system had protected him, but it had not saved him. Mira felt pressure from another side. The council watched her. Every action recorded, every mistake waiting. If she failed now, the system would blame her for everything. Then came the announcement. Full academy evaluation. Mixed units, random assignments, high risk, no safety limits, not training, a message. Mira read the roster, her name, Len's name, Isha's name, and names of cadets who hated her. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood. This evaluation was meant to break the change, to prove the human wrong. Mira closed the file. She knew systems do not forgive those who expose them. They test them. And tomorrow, the system would try to crush her.
Change did not arrive quietly. After the Council's judgment, the Academy did not explode into chaos. Instead, it grew cold. Training schedules continued. Bells rang. Orders were given. Cadets moved through halls like before. But something was wrong. People were watching each other. Some watched Ira Hale with respect. Others watched her with anger. She felt it everywhere. In the training halls, conversation stopped when she entered. Instructors no longer shouted at her, but their silence felt sharper than words. Cadets whispered when they thought she could not hear. She broke tradition. She made us weak. She embarrassed the Academy. Ira did not respond. She trained, harder than before. She ran until her lungs burned. She practiced drills until her hands shook. She learned tactics late into the night, not to prove anything, but because she knew something worse was coming. Systems never forgive those who expose them. The injured cadets returned to training under new rules. No one struck them. No one mocked them openly. But they were isolated, assigned poor positions, left out of drills, ignored in planning. It was quieter cruelty, and Iris saw it. One evening, she confronted an instructor. "You're punishing them without touching them," she said. The instructor stared back coldly. "I am letting them fail on their own." Ira replied, "That's still a choice." The instructor said nothing. Behind closed doors, meetings happened. Senior instructors gathered. Command officers argued. Some demanded the old ways return. "This academy was built on strength," one said, "and it will fall apart with softness," another added. Others disagreed. The humans' results were real. Survival rates increased, but discipline decreased. What is discipline without trust? Voices rose, lines formed. The academy split, not by rank, but by belief. Meanwhile, the squad leader who had looked away sat alone. His authority remained, but it was hollow. Cadets obeyed him. They did not trust him. He noticed it in small things: delayed responses, avoided eye contact, hesitation. One night, he watched recordings of the training incident again. The moment he turned away, he paused the frame. He did not recognize himself. The system had protected him, but it had not saved him. Ira felt pressure from another direction, too. The council had not punished her, but they had not defended her either. She was watched, analyzed, tested. Every action recorded, every choice measured. She understood the message. If you fail now, the system will blame you for everything. Then came the announcement: a full academy-wide combat evaluation. Not squads, mixed units, random assignments, high risk, no simulation limits. This was not training. This was a message. Ira read the roster. Her name was listed. So were the injured cadets. So were several who openly hated her. The room went quiet when the list appeared. Everyone understood. This evaluation was designed to break the change, to prove the human was wrong. The evaluation zone was old, unstable structures, limited visibility, enemy units with full freedom to adapt, no reset, no mercy. Before deployment, a cadet confronted Ira. "You ruined this place," he said. Ira looked at him calmly. It was already broken. He scoffed. "Then you'll break with it." Maybe. She accepted that. The evaluation began. Chaos erupted immediately. Enemy fire came from multiple angles. Confusion spread fast. Cadets shouted over each other. Old habits surfaced. Some charged alone. Some froze. Some abandoned positions. Ira moved without shouting. She pulled one cadet into cover, redirected another, shielded the injured. She was not the strongest, but she was everywhere. When a cadet fell, she dragged them back. When someone panicked, she grounded them. Slowly, something happened. People followed. Not because she ordered them, because it worked. The cadets who hated her noticed they were alive. The ones who doubted her noticed fewer screams. The injured cadets noticed they mattered. Midway through the evaluation, the worst moment came. A collapse. Debris trapped 3 cadets, 2 injured, 1 hostile to Ira. Enemy units closed in. The old rule screamed in everyone's mind. Leave them. The squad leader hesitated again. He saw Ira already moving, without waiting, without asking. She crawled through debris, pulled one free, shielded another with her own body. The hostile cadet stared at her in disbelief. "Why?" he shouted. "I fought you." Ira answered between breaths. "You're still one of us." They escaped seconds before the structure fell. The evaluation ended. Silence followed. Casualty count appeared, lower than any previous run. The council watched. The instructors watched. The system had tried to break her. Instead, it had exposed itself again. Afterward, the hostile cadet found Ira. He stood awkwardly. "I was wrong," he said quietly. Ira nodded. "That happens." Resistance did not vanish, but it weakened, because fear had been replaced by proof. The academy could no longer pretend. Change had survived pressure. And now, something more dangerous than rebellion existed. Example. The system was no longer fighting a human. It was fighting an idea. And ideas spread faster than orders.
The academy did not announce its changes loudly. There were no banners, no victory speeches, no public apologies. Change came quietly. The next training cycle began like every other. Cadets assembled at dawn. Boots struck metal floors. Instructors watched from high platforms. But something felt different. When a cadet stumbled during a run, another reached out and helped them up. When someone made a mistake, it was corrected, without fists, without laughter. When a weak member struggled, the formation slowed instead of pushing ahead. The rules had not vanished, but they had shifted. Commander Varric stood at the front of a squad again. His armor looked the same. His voice was still firm, but his eyes were different. "Cover your rear," he ordered. "Stay together. Do not leave anyone behind." The words felt strange, but they worked. The squad moved smoother, faster, cleaner. Not because they were stronger, because they trusted each other. Len stood taller than he ever had before. He was still not the strongest, still not fearless, but now when he spoke, others listened. During a scouting drill, Len warned of an ambush seconds before it happened. The squad adjusted and avoided heavy losses. Varric placed a hand on his shoulder afterward. "Good work," he said. Len froze, then nodded. That small moment spread faster than any command. Across the academy, similar moments appeared. Weak cadets began to improve instead of disappear. Strong cadets learned patience instead of cruelty. Instructors adapted. Some resisted. Some left. But most changed because the numbers demanded it. Casualty rates dropped. Mission success improved. Desertion nearly vanished. The system did not like emotion, but it respected results, and the results spoke clearly. Outside the academy, reports traveled. Other military schools reviewed the data. Some laughed at it. Human sentimentality, a fluke, a temporary effect. Others tested it quietly. The same pattern appeared. Protecting the weakest increased survival. Standing together reduced losses. Trust improved reaction time. The galaxy noticed. A phrase began appearing in internal documents. Human-style cohesion. It was not praise, it was concern, because it worked everywhere it was tried. High command gathered behind closed doors. What else do humans bring with them? One officer asked. Another replied, they bring refusal. Refusal to look away, refusal to accept cruelty as normal, refusal to abandon their own. That kind of refusal was dangerous because it spread. Back on Earth, Mira Hale returned to a life that looked ordinary. Whole schools, crowded rooms, quiet evenings. No one knew what she had done. She liked it that way. She did not feel like a hero. She felt finished. One evening, her communicator blinked. A secure message. No sender name, only a symbol she recognized. She opened it. Human Cadet Mira Hale, you did not defeat us in battle. You did not overpower our system. You showed us something we lacked. Responsibility. Because of you, leaders will no longer be allowed to watch their own fall. This change will save lives. To Academy Council. Mira read it once. Then she closed the message. She did not smile. She did not cry. She simply breathed out. Far away at the academy, new trainees arrived. Some were small. Some were scared. Some were unsure if they belonged. But when bullies raised their hands, leaders stepped in. When silence tried to return, someone spoke. And deep inside the Academy's archive, one training record was locked and preserved. Not as punishment, not as warning, as memory. It showed a leader turning away, a weak cadet falling, a human stepping forward. The file name read, "The moment the rules failed." But among the cadets, it had a different name. They called it the day humanity arrived. Because humanity did not come with bigger weapons or stronger armor or louder voices. Humanity arrived with one simple idea. No one gets left behind. And the galaxy learned something important that day. A species that refuses to stay silent, a species that protects its weakest, a species that changes systems without firing a shot, is a species that cannot be controlled. And that terrified the stars.